So the ANC here in South Africa having nothing to do with the situation in Zimbabwe, but finally the ZANU-PF party itself has reacted. Earlier on you would have heard that the Youth League spoke earlier this morning. There's been a statement that's been issued by Kaya Moyo, who used to be the ambassador here in South Africa, who's the National Secretary for Information and Publicity, and he says that consistent with the guiding principle of the national liberation struggle, the ruling ZANU-PF party reaffirms the primacy of politics over the gun. He says that they understand, they were not surprised by Chiwenga's comments purporting to speak on behalf of the Defence Force, but they said it was an outrageous violation of professional soldiership and his wartime record as a high-ranking freedom fighter entrusted with command responsibility in a free democratic Zimbabwe. They go on to continue with the statement, which is quite long, saying that they will not succumb to any threats, least of all those deriving from the conduct that is inconsistent with the tenets of democracy and constitutionalism. And he reminded the generals that not too long ago that the president warned them that soldiers should stick to soldiering and stay out of their politics, but he says that they seem to have flouted that. So a statement issued by ZANU-PF this evening on the situation in the country. But let's catch up with an analyst who's with the Institute of Security Studies, but he's based in Zimbabwe. And on the line we have Derek Matishak from, as I said, the ISSA Africa. Thank you very much for joining us. Derek, there just seems to be so much to try and make sense of, but today has been quite a day, and we're busy trying to separate fact from fiction. What do you know of today's happenings?
Yes, we're also trying to separate fact from fiction here. It's a fertile breeding ground for fake news, and certainly rumors are flying around the town at a very high velocity. So it's very difficult to find out the truth of what's happening at the moment.
All right, so give us your view of what had led to the sacking of Emmerson Mnangagwa. Some say that President Mugabe took a huge risk given Mnangagwa's war credentials and his purported support from the army, that perhaps this might have been a step too far.
Yes, indeed. It certainly looks like that when Mugabe indicated that he was going to fire Mnangagwa on the 4th of November, it looked like he had acted in a fit of anger because of the insults that were being hurled at his wife from some of the people who rallied. And it looked like he thought through. Everybody had thought that the plan was to slowly ease Mnangagwa towards the exit, and to suddenly tell Mnangagwa that he was being fired creates this kind of tension and this kind of situation. So it doesn't look like Mugabe has thought matters through at all.
What could be the political consequences for him? I mean, you know, people are speculating that tanks roaming around the streets could be meaning a low-level coup even.
Well, certainly the statement by the commander of the Defence Forces was to throw down the gauntlet to Mugabe, and he's yet to respond to that challenge. The way in which the commander of the Defence Forces seems to be strengthening his position is by making sure that there are very visible troop movements around the country to put further pressure on Mugabe. But Mugabe, of course, has the power to utter the words, "You are fired," to the commander of the Defence Forces at any point in time, and he certainly has grounds for doing that at the moment because of the unconstitutional actions by the commander of the Defence Forces. So we have a standoff situation at the moment. We are waiting to see who blinks first, but at the moment, while we wait for that to happen, the situation has to be very volatile.
All right, state power is one thing. You can say you were elected and that you're head of state, but it is backed by some kind of strength, and traditionally that's been the army. If the army separates itself, then on what basis can the president say he holds power?
Well, if for example, the president says to the commander of the army, the commander of the defense forces that you're fired, and the commander of the defense forces then says that he's not going anywhere and refuses to budge, that would be a clear violation of the Constitution, and we now have a full-blown crisis. The intervention of SABC and South Africa. Certainly, it's not a situation where, as I understood some of the speakers to say, where the ANC said they can't get involved. This crisis is inevitably going to bring in South Africa if it develops in the way it looks like doing at the moment.
So the Zanu-PF conference is happening in a couple of weeks' time. I suppose this is probably going to be the most important they've had since 1980. What are we likely to see there if nothing has happened in the interim?
We're likely to see the elevation of Grace Mugabe to a vice presidency position. We are likely to see in the interim a purging of the Zanu-PF party of the so-called Lacoste faction, Mnangagwa's supporters, and it's exactly that thing that the commander of the defense forces has warned Mugabe about. So we see whether Mugabe takes those or whether he continues with the purges. And depending on which way that goes will profoundly affect the Congo.
All right, Derek, we're going to have to leave it there. It looks like we've lost the line there, but certainly what does appear, something is evolving, something is happening, but we're not quite clear what exactly. Today, reports of tank movements, which in of themselves may not be entirely unusual, but also we're hearing reports that President Mugabe had one of the longest cabinet meetings that he's had in quite a while today. Obviously, lots to discuss, but we'll keep on top of that story.